Kang No-eul. Kang No-eul isn't your typical villain. She's what happens when someone tries to be moral in an immoral system. As a former North Korean soldier who fled south after killing her superior officer, she was no stranger to making tough choices. That alone speaks to the mental strength and emotional damage we're talking about. When she joined the games as a masked soldier, she wasn't just another faceless guard. She became the sniper in red light and green light, picking off players who moved. But in some twisted, up way, she actually had principles. While other guards were busy selling organs on the black market, she made sure players got a clean death, whatever the hell that meant. But she truly believed in giving them dignity, even in their final moments. But whether clean or not, she was still pulling that trigger and still ending lives. She might have opposed the organ harvesting and might have argued with the masked officer about the true purpose of the games, but at the end of the day, she was part of the machine. She tried to make it more humane, but can murder ever really be humane? The really twisted part? Her attempts to be moral in an evil system made her a target. The corrupt soldiers didn't appreciate her interfering with their organ trafficking scheme. So there she was, stuck between her principles and survival, trying to find some middle ground in a place where morality goes to die.
얼굴은 왜 그래요? 친구들이랑 싸웠니?
The recruiter. The recruiter might look polite in his neat suit and might seem like he's offering hope to the desperate, but he's really just fishing for victims with a smile. This guy is like a spider, except instead of a web, he traps people in that innocent-looking Dokji game. What makes him extra nasty is how he enjoys the process. He recruits people for the games and humiliates them. That slapping game? He could easily just invite people to the games, but no, he needs to make them feel small first. He needs to show them just how desperate they are, how far they'll go for a chance at money. It's like he's auditioning people for their own deaths. But the absolute horror is in the repetition. Even after seeing hundreds of people die in the games, even after knowing precisely what fate awaits his recruits, he keeps going. He's still out there with his briefcase full of cash, a stack of business cards, still smiling and slapping, still sending people to their doom. And you know what? He sleeps just fine at night. Twisted, I say.
영화에서 보신 적이 있을 겁니다. 러시안 룰렛이라고. 보통 이렇게 한 발을 넣고.
Captain Park. Captain Park is a character who shows how money can turn even those meant to protect us into monsters. Captain Park started as a police officer who should stand for justice, but he didn't just take the bait when the front man dangled some cash before him. He dove right into the deep end of betrayal. Think about this. When Hwang Jun-ho was desperately searching for answers about his missing brother, Park pretended to help him. He acted like the good guy, the reliable senior officer who'd help crack the case. But behind that helpful smile, he was already plotting Jun-ho's downfall. He was reporting every move back to the front man, making sure Jun-ho would never get too close to the truth. But Park wasn't content with just being a spy. When a mercenary caught him tampering with those aerial drones meant to find the game's island, did he try to talk his way out? Nope, he straight up killed the guy. Then he manipulated Jun-ho's friend Choi Woo-seok into keeping quiet about the whole thing. That's a cold-blooded calculation right there. And the worst part? He went the extra mile in his evil deeds by reporting a discovered island to the game's organizers. He knew exactly what would happen. They'd bomb it to keep their secrets safe. All those innocent lives were lost, and for what? A paycheck? That's what makes Park such a nasty piece of work. He wasn't forced into the games. He wasn't fighting for survival. He was just evil for profit.
아니 내가 잠이 안 와가지고 뭐 좀 찾다가 우연히 봤네.
Player 101, Jang Deok-soo brought evil into the games rather than being corrupted by them. This guy wasn't forced to become a monster, he showed up ready to roll. As a gangster who joined the games to escape his debts, he saw the whole thing as his natural habitat. Finally, a place where his violent tendencies wouldn't just be tolerated but rewarded. Remember that night massacre? While other players were trying to sleep, processing the horror of their situation, Deok-soo saw an opportunity. He killed to survive and enjoyed it. He turned the dormitory into his personal hunting ground, thinning out the competition while spreading terror among the survivors. The way he treated his allies was just as bad. He'd form alliances only to betray them the moment they weren't useful anymore. Just ask Han Min-yo. He used her, manipulated her, and then tossed her aside like yesterday's trash. But karma has a way of catching up, doesn't it? All his tough guy acts crumbled when it came to the glass stepping stones game. He showed his true colors, a coward who'd sacrifice anyone to save his own skin. Begging at the last minute is not very villainy, is it?
Hey! Welcome to Korea! Welcome!
Thanos. Choi Soo-bong earned his nickname through pure nastiness. Here was a guy who lost everything on a bad crypto investment and decided to take his frustration out on everyone around him. Sure, Losing your career as a rapper and ending up in massive debt sucks, but this guy turned it into an excuse for sadism. Right from the start, he showed what kind of player he'd be in red light, green light. While everyone else was frozen in shock at the killing, he was already pushing people down, using them as human shields. 3 people died so that he could have a better shot at survival. And the worst part? He celebrated it. Actually celebrated taking lives. His treatment of Lee Myung-gi really shows his true nature. Okay, Myung-gi gave him bad investment advice that led to his downfall, but Thanos took revenge to a whole new level. Not only did he confront him, he tortured him mentally and physically. Rubbing food in someone's face might not sound as bad as shooting them, but it's the kind of humiliation that shows real cruelty. The drugs didn't help either. Instead of making him mellow, they made him more unstable and more violent. He built up this loyal team around him, but he'd turn on them in a heartbeat if it suited his needs. Even in his final moments after Myung-gi finally snapped and stabbed him, he tried to keep fighting. That's a dedication to being awful right there.
아니 몰랐대. 지금부터 알아가면 되니까 어디 살아 몇 살이야?
Player 218. Player 218 proves that education and success don't make you immune to becoming a monster. Cho Sang-woo walked into the games as the pride of his neighborhood, a top graduate from Seoul National University and a successful investment banker. But all that prestige couldn't stop him from becoming one of the most ruthless players in the game. What makes him fascinating is his step-by-step descent into evil. He started with good intentions. He wanted to pay off his debts and save his mother from financial ruin. Noble enough, right? But watch how his mind works as the games go on. He makes calculated choices that strip away his humanity piece by piece. Take his relationship with Ali. Here's this kind, trusting immigrant who looks up to him, who saves his life, who calls him sir out of respect. And how does Sang-woo repay that loyalty? By pulling off one of the most cold-blooded betrayals in the game. He tricked Ali and exploited his trust completely, swapping his marbles for stones. That moment when Ali discovers the deception, that's the sound of the last bit of Sang-woo's soul dying. But he wasn't done yet. During the glass bridge game, he stands back and lets others test the panels, watching them fall to their deaths. Then, when player 017 hesitates trying to figure out the pattern, Sang-woo pushes him. No hesitation, no remorse. The murder of Kang No-eul shows just how far he'd fallen. She was already dying, but that wasn't good enough for him. He had to ensure she couldn't convince Gi-hun to end the game, so he slits her throat while she's helpless. That's not survival anymore, that's just evil.
옛날 생각할 시간 있으면 다음에 무슨 게임 할지나 생각해봐.
Frontman. Hwang In-ho, also known as the Front, is a dark mirror that shows how the system can turn a victim into a willing oppressor. Think about his story. He won the games in 2015, walked away with the prize money, and instead of exposing this death trap, he came back to run it. That's like a freed prisoner becoming a torturer. The mask symbolizes how he's buried his old identity. The man who was once a police officer who stood for justice now executes staff members for minor rule violations. He talks about equality and fairness while creating a system of entertainment for the rich built on poor people's desperation. He shot his own brother. I mean, what else? When Hwang Jun-ho infiltrates the games trying to find him, trying to save him, In-ho puts a bullet in him. Family bonds, brotherhood, basic human decency, all of it means nothing compared to maintaining the game's secrets. What makes him extra twisted is his philosophy. He truly believes he's creating some fair system, that these death games somehow give the downtrodden a chance they never had in the real world. How is that? He's justifying it and packaging it as some warped social justice.
명심해. 우리가 누군지 알게 되면 죽는다.
Player 1. Ho Il-nam is the grand architect of all this madness. He's evil with a philosophy, evil with resources, evil with a god complex. He created the games not out of necessity, not for revenge, but because he was bored. Let that sink in. Hundreds of people died because a rich old man needed entertainment. The genius of his evil lies in how he participated in his own game. He didn't just watch from afar. He got in there, played alongside his victims, and pretended to be their friend. He built genuine connections with people like Gi-hun while knowing the whole time that he was the one who put them in this hell. Remember that marble game? When he manipulated Gi-hun's kindness? Playing on his emotions by acting confused and scared? That wasn't just gameplay. That was him toying with human emotions for fun. He knew he wasn't really at risk, but he still played with Gi-hun's conscience and made him feel guilty about tricking an old man with dementia. His justification makes it even worse. He claims that both the rich and poor suffer from a lack of purpose, so these games somehow give meaning to people's lives. That's evil pretending to be philosophy. He turned human suffering into a spectator sport for the wealthy, while pretending he was doing his victims a favor. Even in his final moments, he couldn't stop playing games. That bet about whether someone would help the homeless man wasn't about proving human goodness. It was his last attempt to justify his twisted worldview. He wanted to prove that people are fundamentally bad, and that his games expose human nature. The fact that he lost that bet didn't change anything. He died as he lived, playing with people's lives. I mean, what could be more twisted than that? So much fun with so many deaths? That's it for today's breakdown of Squid Game's most evil characters. Hit that notification bell to stay updated on new content, and let me know in the comments which villain you think deserved a different ranking. See you in the following video.